Hi everyone, welcome to this video introduction. My name is Giulia Lasagni, and in this video I'm going to talk about group agency and collective intentionality. These two notions, group agency and collective intentionality, are used in social ontology in reference to quite common actions, such as tangoing, electing the majority party, playing a song, and approving a business plan. Although these activities are different from each other, they all share the common feature of being collective actions, which means that they are actions carried out by two or more individuals acting together as a group. While collective intentionality serves to answer the question, what is it for a set of individuals to act together as a group agency addresses the issue as to whether groups, such as dancing couples, entire populations, music bands, and committees, can be agents in their own right. We have two levels. The former is focused on what happens at the level of the members, the latter on group level phenomena. Following this distinction, in my presentation, I will first provide an overview of prominent member-level accounts of collective action. In the second part, I will consider whether and how social groups have been regarded as subjects of action. Then, after a brief summary, I will address some open questions in the debate and give you some reading tips on the topic. So let's start with member-level explanations of collective agency, and so with the question, what is it for a set of individuals to act together as a group? Before attempting an answer, consider for a moment the case of individual actions. When we perform an action individually, we follow a plan, and we realize the plan through our gestures. For example, my intention to open the door is realized by my act of opening the door. Now, we can assume that just as individual actions realize individual attitudes, collective actions require some sort of collective planning. An example, a collective plan, is the collective intention to paint the house together. And the capacity to formulate such a collective intention is what we call collective intentionality. So, when we ask, what is it for us to paint the house together? We want to know what it is for us to have the collective intention to paint the house together. About this problem, two sorts of explanation can be provided. The first line of explanation follows a reductive approach, as it asserts that collective intention is best understood in terms of concepts already available in our understanding of individual intention and action. The second route, the non-reductive approach, denies that the explanation of collective action can be provided through concepts and principles applied to the case of individual intention and action. Let's start with the reductive view, advanced among others by Michael Bratman and Kurt Ludwig. Consider the question, what is it for us to have the collective intention to paint the house together? Reductive views suggest that for us to have the intention to paint the house together is for each of us to have the intention that we will paint the house together. And each of us intends that we will paint the house together in accordance with the common knowledge that we all share the same intention and that each of us intends to contribute by fulfilling some specific task, like me painting the front door, you painting the fence, and Simon painting the facade. This means that individuals contribute to the collective action through a network of interrelated attitudes and matching sub-plans. Specific of these attitudes is that the collective dimension is found both in the interrelation of the members and in the content of the attitude of each. And that's why this sort of explanation is known as content account of collective action. This is how an intention planning for a collective action would look like. I intend that we will paint the house together. You see, the we is part of the content. Different is the case in which collective intentionality is understood as being irreducible. Two approaches have argued for the irreducibility of collective intentionality and agency. One of those is the so-called mode account. On this view, for us to have the collective intention to paint the house together is for each of us to intend collectively, or which is the same, to have the we mode intention that we paint the house together by each doing their part. Here, collective is a psychological perspective or mode from which each participant holds the attitude for the action. This sort of explanation can be found in at least two versions. The first one was proposed by Raimund Wamela, who maintained that we mode intentions are intentions that one has in virtual functioning as a group member. In fact, this view is known as positional account, and the reason for that is that the mode and the content of the intention held by each group member strictly depends on the position covered within the group. In common with the content account, this theory has the assumption that collective actions are not planned by isolated subjects, but by interrelated subjects who have joint plans. This premise, though, is not found in the version of the mode account proposed by John Searle, who considers we intentions as primitive attitudes, genuinely collective mental states that each individual can bear independently of the actual correlation with others' attitudes. The collective mode in Searle's view presupposes a background sense of the other, although collective intentions could be held by brains in bats. Among non-reductive views, and departing a bit from the mode account, we find Margaret Gilbert's subject account. To the question, what is it for us to have the collective intention to paint the house together? Gilbert would answer by saying that for us to paint the house together would be for us to intend as a group that we paint the house together as a single body. According to Gilbert, two or more individuals contribute to a collective action by forming a plural subject group. Plural subjects are formed through the joint commitment of the members to act, intend, and believe as a unit. And although in these account groups are taken to be the plural subjects of collective actions, we might regard Gilbert's view as offering a member-level account of group agency because it is still focused on the attitudes of interrelated individuals. And similarly, Hans Bernhard Schmidt identifies collective subjects with the plural self-awareness experienced by the individuals forming the group. So also in this case, no additional entity capable of having intentions for the action is postulated. And this leads us to the question as to whether groups can be agents in their own right, which is the main concern of group-level accounts. But before getting into details, we must establish whether a group could ever be the subject of intentional agency. Indeed, everyday experience would seem to suggest that not only this is possible, but also quite common. In fact, we often come across headlines like the following. Every 8 minutes, the American Red Cross responds to an emergency. The European Commission presents actions to boost organic production. Facebook changes its name to Meta in measure rebrand. In all these cases, groups are treated as if they were agents, subjects of intentional action. But how could a group have intentions for the action? Does group agency entail the existence of a mysterious group mind? Well, some scholars contend that when we talk about group agency, we make use of fictionary language, as the ascription of agency to groups is just metaphorical. We do that for practical reasons. It's convenient. But if we only had the time to dwell on complex explanations, group agency, according to such reductive readings, could be traced all the way back to interrelated individual attitudes. And, to be precise, reductionism is nuanced. It can be the claim that group agents do not exist and that group-level concepts can be reduced to individual-level explanations, or reduction can be applied only to the ontology of groups while maintaining that group-level concepts are irreducible to member-level notions and principles. But, regardless of its declinations, reductionism can be found attractive, as it allows ordinary talk about group agency without running the risk of introducing any mysterious or supra-individual agent or mind. Also, the view is parsimonious in that explains all intentional actions through layers of intentionality and in accordance with the roles, the norms, and the functions involved in complex contexts of agency, such as those instantiated by the American Red Cross, the European Commission, and Facebook. So, is a group level account always reducible to the member level account? Some scholars, other scholars, suggest that it is not always the case. And here we come to non-reductive accounts of group agency, that is accounts for which some social groups can be agents in their own right. Thomason, for example, suggests that insofar as the concept of group agent, as well as other social concepts actually, serves to provide normative guidance to life in society, it is worth keeping it. And focused on the feasibility and efficacy of explanation, we also find Tollefson's interpretivism. On this view, a group level account of collective actions makes sense insofar as our ascription of intentionality to groups is guided by norms of rationality and is conducive to a useful understanding of what is called group agency. List and Pettit, both in individual papers and in their co-authored book, have attempted to explain how some social groups can be considered as agents in their own right. They advance a minimal notion of agent, according to which an intentional agent is a system located in some environment which has beliefs about what its environment is like, desires or goals about what it would like to achieve in its environment, and a capacity to act in its environment so as to pursue its desire or goals in line with its beliefs, end quote. Well, this definition is deliberately thin. For example, it doesn't say anything about the complexity of desires and beliefs. Beliefs and desires are here conceived as functional attitudes, that is, attitudes that work as representational and motivational states for the system, no matter how they are formed or what the ontological substratum may be. They are just defined by the role that they play for the agent or within the system. So unless one assumes some form of essentialism or singularism about agency, such a minimal definition offers no reason to hold human beings as the only creatures able to satisfy such a list of basic requirements. In fact, even animals, robotic devices, and groups, of course, can be agents, provided they have representational states about the environment, motivational states about it, and can act accordingly. List and Pettit claim that even though groups are formed by members, group attitudes cannot be derived straightforwardly from individual attitudes. And for this reason, group intentions cannot be accounted for by means of individual level explanations. Let's consider an example. Take the case of the construction company in charge of painting my house. Assume it has 3 members who must vote to approve the work plan, for which the door is to be painted red, the walls yellow, and the fence blue. We can see that everyone individually rejects the plan. So, if we think that the views of the members on the final approval should determine the group judgment on approval, then the group decision should be to reject the plan. However, if we take the views of the members on the premises, then the group conclusion should be to accept the plan because the majority voted yes on each issue. List and Pettit argue that in cases like this one, known as discursive dilemma, norms of group-level rationality must be followed in order to avoid contradictions and to secure the rational coherence and consistency of group attitudes over time. And because group attitudes are the result of group reasoning and not the summation or aggregation of member attitudes, they are called corporate attitudes. You see, group intentions are not the product of a group mind, but the outcome of decision-making mechanisms processing the inputs provided by the members into a single group-level output that is called corporate attitude. On a similar line of thought, French spoke of corporate policy, and Robin has insisted on the formation of a unified perspective through joint deliberation and in accordance with rational standards of coherence and consistency. So, in general, according to group-level accounts, legitimate talks about group agency are those referred to groups that have an organizational structure suitable to act and interact with the environment in a way that is appropriate. And because not all groups have the sort of organization that allows them to meet the requirements of agency, we can say that not every group can be an agent, and therefore, even for non-reductive approaches, not every collective action can be a group action. That said, it's time to recap. We began by considering member-level accounts of collective action, trying to understand how the debate has answered to the question, what is it for a set of individuals to act together as a group? The answer led us to the notion of collective intentionality, because we said collective agency requires collective intentions. Then we considered reductive views that account for collective intentions in terms of individual intentions interrelated, and non-reductive views that find specifically collective aspects either in the mode or in the subject of the intention. Then we've asked the question, can a group be an agent in its own right? And we have come to the notion of group agency. Although not all collective actions can be counted as group actions, we considered the possibility that some collective actions can be counted as group actions. Those who deny this possibility support a reductive view of group agency, while those who argue for the irreducibility of group actions support the thesis without introducing any mysterious group mind, but by relying on the rational unity incorporated by the group and produced by following decision-making mechanisms and norms of rational coherence and consistency. That's it. Now, before I conclude, I would like to mention some of the questions driving the debate around group agency and collective intentionality. The first topic I would like to mention concerns non-reductive views of group agency, and the question is about the relation between the attitudes of the members and those of the group. It is said that group attitudes depend on the attitudes of the members, and this relation of dependence has been understood in terms of holistic supervenience, constitution, emergence. There is a discussion on the topic. Then, regarding ethical implications, interesting questions are about the possibility to hold group agents responsible and about the relation between the responsibility of the group and the responsibility of the members. Questions include, can group responsibility be distributed among the members? Who is to blame and in what circumstances? Then, discussions in metaphysics concern the nature of social groups, including group agents. Some contend that group agents are sets, others refer to them as mereological fusions, and some scholars argue that group agents are structured wholes. Catherine Ritchie, for example, suggests that social groups are social structures realized by sets of entities, including individuals and groups. And with this, we've really reached the conclusion of this video. If you are interested in the topic, I suggest these great introductions. And if you wanted to learn even more about group agency and collective intentionality, here is the list of sources mentioned in this presentation. Well, I hope this introduction was clear and will help you approach the debate in social ontology. Thank you for watching.